Welcome. I have a special treat for you today. Today, I want to help you learn about an innovative strategy to get your brand on more store shelves and into the hands of more shoppers. After all, that's why we're here, right? The best part is that you can leverage these resources today. When I started in this industry, trade shows were the primary way we sold our products to retailers. Now, trade shows are so crowded that it's difficult, if not impossible, to get that one on one dedicated time with key retailers. Let's fix that. While we all wait until the next expo, we need creative ways to get in front of retailers, and we also need creative ways to keep the lights on at the same time. Would you be interested in a way to save on jet fuel and still have that personal interaction with retailers? Today's podcast is actually the live webinar recording from today's webinar featuring ECRM and RangeMe, how to get your brand discovered by retailers and get it onto store shelves. As always, thank you for being here. This show is about units for you. As a thank you for listening, there's always one free downloadable guide for you to help you grow and scale your brand at the end of every podcast episode, one that can give you a sustainable and significant competitive advantage. If you like the podcast, please share it with a friend, subscribe so that you'll be the first to get new brand building content as soon as it becomes available. And don't forget to go back and listen to previous episodes where I may solve some of your most pressing bottlenecks. You know the things that keep you up at night? My mission is to make our healthy way of life more accessible by helping you get your products onto more store shelves and into the hands of more shoppers, including online. Please help me raise the bar by sharing these resources. Remember, you are not alone. We are all here to help. Now, here are Sarah, Joe, and Brandon. Okay, thank you everyone for being here. Let's go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for being here. But as far as why this matters and why this works, trade shows used to be the opportunity that brands would look to be able to sell their product. And trade shows became so busy and so much about trying to network and stuff like that, that kind of lost its, you lose your ability to leverage a trade show to really be able to get a one-on-one FaceTime with a retailer, which is what you're trying to do. It's the only reason you're in business. ECRM is a really cool platform that allows you to kind of effectively do speed dating with a retailer. And I've been really blessed to have a relationship with them for quite a while. But the reason that this matters so much is because now when you can't go to, and you're going to hear about this more in a minute, now when you can't go to a trade show, what do? How do you get your product in the hands of more retailers? How do you get discovered? And so you're going to want to go back and listen to a couple podcast episodes that I did with both Brandon and Sarah and Joe about why this matters, what they do, what they provide. And what's unique about today, and thank you everyone for coming on, is that we're talking about new capabilities that they have to help support you in this time when we can't get on a plane. So Joe, how has the impact of COVID-19 impacted the industry and the way we do business?
Sure. Well, as soon as this started happening, we saw that there were a few major pain points in the industry. For one thing, with travel restrictions, right? Buyers could not go to these shows. They couldn't go meet with anybody. They couldn't have suppliers meet with them. At the same time, they really did not have much time because they were so busy in dealing with out of stocks or supply chain issues. They were dealing with the flood of customers that were coming in and just keeping up with everything. They were doing everything that they could just to really serve their customers. And it was an all hands on deck kind of situation. So on the supplier side, there was a lack of access to these buyers because of that. So, once this started happening, we all as a company put our heads together to try and figure out what can we do to really help them with their immediate needs, but also their ongoing needs, right? Because they still need to source products. They still need to discover new products. They still need to do their jobs in the midst of all of these. So that kind of is what resulted in the more virtual solutions that we've come up with. The first part, and this started in March, and RangeMe started right off the bat and Brandon. I'm going to have ask Brandon to give the details because I know I call them review days, but you have another name for it. But right in March, they started getting with the retailers, a lot of retailers who were going to be at these shows, and working with them so that they could still discover products. Brandon, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I think, to piggyback on what Joe was saying was, I think the first moment, and there was like a milestone moment when all of this kind of like all the dominoes started falling. I think that was the first moment was when Expo West was canceled. And I think that was kind of the moment in which the entire industry was like, okay, so this is real, and things are going to start happening, and things are going to be different moving forward. And it's interesting because, as the industry has continued to kind of change during this time, RangeMe from that point on, it's kind of just accelerated. So, it's always been here. Lots of 15% just to 20% of the entire addressable market in the U.S. uses RangeMe. They're on the platform. But what we've seen after this kind of pandemic, and as the dominoes continue to fall, we've just started to see, both retailers and their buyers and suppliers themselves use RangeMe in new and imaginative ways. Understand that like this is an opportunity for them. It's almost like a blank canvas for them to have the ability to network and connect. So one of the first things that Joe was alluding to is, as Expo West was canceled, we had a large, massive group of suppliers that are kind of essentially putting their hands up going, what do we do next? And then you had some amazing buyers from amazing retailers thinking, okay, well, now what do I do to fill my category, to fulfill my assortment? And, what ended up happening was, hey, you know what? There's this tool that exists. I'm already using it, RangeMe. I think Thrive was the first one who really took initiative and decided, hey, you know what? I might not be able to come to the products, but I can still bring the products to me. And so what that team did was they kicked off their own sourcing campaign. They're like, for anyone who is going to attend Expo West, why not? Here's a link. Here's our RangeMe link. Go ahead and submit here. And then you started to see other retailers do the same thing. And it was a beautiful thing because you actually really saw the industry come together. And it wasn't about, it wasn't just about going to a trade show. It wasn't just about all the money that you're spending, all the travel and things like that. What it ended up becoming was it went back to its roots of, I just need to make connections. I want to see people. I want to get in front of the products. And suppliers responded in kind, right? We've had more activity since March 2nd than any other time in our company. And I've been with the company. I was a third employee here. And it's just gone to show that, like, as the industry changes, the industry continues to evolve and adapt and move forward. That's just kind of one of the ways that retailers did it, and how suppliers essentially not took advantage of, but had the opportunity to experience. So yeah, it was a great moment.
Brandon, thank you. And Joe, too, thank you for sharing that. And that's so cool to hear. One of the things I say all the time is that what makes natural is our community. And it's great that you guys are providing that platform, that resource, that ability to connect and continue doing business. I read a lot of the threads on a lot of the different platforms, and everyone's really worried about what to do and, will the sun rise tomorrow? It's great to know that you're already taking a leadership role in this and helping us continue to grow and scale our business. So thank you for sharing that. Sarah, can you tell us about your efficient supplier introductions and the changes that you've made in the platform?
Yes, absolutely. So good morning, everyone. Happy to talk through that a little bit. And I think, just to lead into that, I'm looking through the attendees that are on, and like many of you, we've had to stop and look at our business and, what our mission was, as Joe was saying, to help connect buyers and sellers, and how do we do it in this new environment? And, with what Brandon's talking about with RangeMe and all the digital connectivity we can have between buyers and sellers, how do we kind of pivot, change, and still be very helpful in the environment that we were all up against? And so that led us into the launch of what we're calling ESIs, Efficient Supplier Introductions. And, immediately, after getting feedback from buyers that they still had a need to talk to these suppliers, they still had to do their jobs, but they had to do it with a lot less time, a lot less resources. We were talking to some buyers that were in stores stocking shelves, bagging groceries, but eventually they'd have to, still be sourcing products, find the new items that they know that their sets may need here immediately, or by the time they get to resets, maybe a year from now. And so we wanted to help, but do it in a way that, they could still, use the very little time that they had to efficiently meet with suppliers. And then on the supply side, the same need that, you're trying to get a hold of these buyers and they're in store, or they're trying to tackle the day-to-day obstacles that they had and the needs that they had. So what we launched was these efficient supplier introductions, and they are tailored, category specific focus sessions that really allow for product discovery. Suppliers receive a 10-minute presentation window where they'll talk about their point of difference, their products, their company, and be able to present that to multiple buyers listening in, really from the comfort of their desk or their home, and, be able to connect with them. Now, the buyers would log in and listen to the presentations, but all of this happened after some processes took place. So we had a lot of hands-on support to get this going. So number one, we had our client success managers that have always worked on our programs and worked with the buyers and sellers, now working with those that were participating to first understand the buyer's objectives. So when a buyer signed up, what are you looking for? What's your immediate need? What's your future need? Why are you participating? So that we could relay that to the suppliers. We also were working with them to show them how to utilize RangeMe. So every supplier that signed up included their RangeMe page with all their details. So buyers could preview that. They could request samples in advance or after the presentation took place. And the suppliers, we were coaching them up on those buyers' objectives, their needs, and relaying, relaying all those things the buyers told us so they could cater the presentation to that, and get their RangeMe pages updated, make sure everything was specific to what they were talking about, so buyers could find them and request samples. And afterwards, we relayed all the communication on both sides, or the contact information on both sides, so that follow-up could happen and business can continue to get done.
That's amazing. That's great that you guys are able to do that. By the way, Rob, I do see your note in the chat, and we'll answer that in just a minute. So just, I don't want you to think we're ignoring you. Thank you for sharing that, because that's really cool that you guys have been able to figure out how to connect the dots, how to thread the needle. Brandon, how has RangeMe involved in the new platform with the virtual sessions?
Yeah. So, I think one of the beautiful things about this was, and just to take a quick step back to frame it up a little bit, but we've kind of done everything, like, before this all happened, it was very much, there was two aspects in which ways that suppliers and buyers connected. It was either in person, right, or online. And I think that during this time, what has happened is, we're all on a Zoom right now. The industry and just everyone around us is getting a rapid education on virtual and how to use Zoom. And I know that my kids are on virtual schooling right now. So I know that, they're getting an education. All parents are getting education on Zoom and all this and virtual. And I think that that's kind of weaved its way into the fabric of, how the industry will coming out of this will continue to do business, right? Like we found another agile way for brands and buyers to connect, and it's exciting, right? So now all of a sudden you have that middle ground between online, which is very scaled but very low touch, and then in person, which is not as scalable but extremely high touch and necessary, right? Now you have this beautiful middle ground that kind of binds it all together. And RangeMe has always sat at that kind of online level, right? Where, it's just, like I said, I always use the LinkedIn analogy. It's essentially your tool, right? It's essentially your scale tool kind of year round and your sell sheet that you use throughout the year. And that's how we support these virtual opportunities as well. We're that online portion of it. So Sarah was saying, for ESIs that she was mentioning, it allows there to be a kind of a pre-portion of that before that virtual meeting, getting to know the products. Buyers can experience products that they're going to, and suppliers that they're going to meet in that virtual opportunity, and the suppliers themselves have the opportunity to, be discovered pre that time, and then post that time, it's all about connecting, requesting samples, and talking, and doing business afterwards. And RangeMe kind of facilitates that whole thing. So it was a natural kind of marriage, a natural step from online to virtual, and then back to online for that. So yeah, I mean, RangeMe has done this, over the last month and a half across the board in lighter ways and heavier ways. But essentially, we kind of wrap around these opportunities, these virtual opportunities, and help bind them together. So it's a great experience, not just during, which ECRM does so well, but before and after.
Speaking of learning more about virtual and how to use Zoom, et cetera, just kidding. So thank you for sharing that. One of the things that I think is really compelling about this, as we're talking about a way to do something in a very different way, very different format. In other words, not face-to-face. I love the fact that you guys are talking about the fact that we still need to have those one-on-one interactions as we always have. It's critical that a brand not just show up at a retailer's desk and say, hey, think about me, put my product on the shelf, but more importantly, how do you help that retailer grow sales by leveraging the strength of your unique consumer? So with that, how does the virtual offerings, how will that be integrated moving forward? And what I'm getting at here, and I'd love all three of you to chime in on this, how does a brand step up to help the retailer and leverage your platform at the same time? Joe, you want to start?
Sure. Well, there's one thing, and there's one component that I wanted to address because it's going to be a part of the answer to that is, in addition to what RangeMe did in March and then the ESIs that we launched in April, this month we're launching our virtual sessions, which is basically an iteration of our in-person sessions that are done online. So it's going to have, because of the feedback from the ESIs, they loved it. I mean, we had more than 1,000 buyers sign up for the ESIs within a 2-week period. And we're talking about, they love the experience of our in-person sessions with the one-on-one instead of one-to-many. So we're going to offer that as well. This is something that we're building. It's a custom platform. It's not Zoom. And it'll allow that one-to-one meeting. So those people who are familiar with our sessions, they'll know that there's an app. We hand out iPads to everybody to use when they have their meetings. And we have an app called ECRM Connect, which has their meeting schedules. It has an ability to take notes, to rate the meetings. It has all the products listed there. So if you're a buyer meeting with someone, you can see all the products that they have. All of that's uploaded ahead of time. And it basically gives them all the information that they need for their meetings and, to see their schedule. So we've kind of replicated that entire thing in a virtual environment. So the process and the services, the customer service is all the same, except now instead of meeting in a room or in a at a tabletop, you're meeting through the computer screen. So it's a much more robust solution, and it's going to really mimic the format that everybody is used to. So now to your question, ongoing, once this pandemic is done, we are still going to have all of these options. So the ESIs are still going to exist. The virtual solutions are still going to exist, as well as the in-person sessions that everybody has been coming to for 25 years. And the reason is, like Brandon alluded to before, this is the new normal. Everybody is getting used to doing all of their business communications through these virtual means. And there are a lot of people that see the value in doing that. So we're not just going to cut it off afterwards. We're going to keep going with a mix of all three, and which ones are used for which categories are going to be determined by feedback from the buyers, from the suppliers, and what's, what makes sense. Like, for example, I had an interview with a supplier who was on our pet ESI a couple of weeks ago, and she brought up a really, really good point. She also signed up for our Euro pet ESI because she does reach the European market. And she told me, she said, even if there was no pandemic, as much as she would love to go to Europe and meet with these buyers at one of our sessions, she just doesn't have the time. So for her, it was a godsend, the fact that we created these virtual options, because it will let her deal with retailers in Europe very easily without having to get on a plane and go there and then come back and eat up that time in between. So there's going to be a lot of applications for these virtual in ways that weren't originally intended, that we're seeing as we move forward. Sarah, do you want to add to that? Or?
Can I interject something real quick?
Sure.
Let me kind of help throw some. I mean, I keep saying frame this and help people understand what's really cool about what you guys do is like I said, speed dating. So let me explain why this matters from my standpoint. I used to be a manufacturer. I've been a retailer. I've been all sorts. I've worn all different hats. So as a brand, when I worked for Unilever, I became a premier exec in less than 5 months. I flew almost 600,000 miles in 5 months. Think about the amount of shoe leather to try to get in front of retailers. That's ridiculous. Think about the waste. Think about the cost. Now, imagine being able to have an opportunity to meet with 10, 15, however many retailers at one session. Imagine the efficiency in that. Now, take what Joe just said, and thank you for sharing that, Joe. And now imagine being able to do that from the comfort of your own home or wherever your office is or whatever. And the point is that think of the efficiencies. Think of the jet fuel that you save. Think of the ability to get that one-on-one time that you desperately need. If you listen to the podcast, and I hope you do, you hear me talk a lot about how trade shows are fantastic networking events. But the reality is, people don't walk around the trade show with a sign on their hat saying, hey, I'm a retailer, and tripping them and getting some dedicated time with them, tripping them, in other words, stopping them in their tracks as they walk by your booth. That's hard to do. And it's hard to get that one-on-one time with all those distractions. So I want to emphasize the point that Joe just made, that this is one-on-one dedicated time with a lot of different retailers. So what we're doing is we're compressing your ability to get in front of a lot of retailers, to get your brand on more store shelves in the hands of more shoppers. So anyhow, sorry, Sarah, could you please go on?
Yeah, I think the point I wanted to make with everything that we're talking about now is just the process behind it, because I think any of us could reach out to buyers we've worked with or, associates that we have to set up a Zoom meeting or an online, have a phone discussion. And it's hard to do, especially in this environment, but it's doable. What we wanted to do is take it a step further and actually get two parties together, that there is an opportunity to do business, and educate both groups beforehand on how best to do that. So we're talking, Joe mentioned that in 2 weeks, we got 1,000 different buyers to register for these supplier introductions. Each one of those, when they participated, talked to us about objectives, talked to us about what their needs were. And it was great to have, a 2-hour window to see some opportunities, but to really put that on steroids and to really, get the right suppliers in front of them that they could actually act on right away, we had to do it in this curated process that we have for our programs. And that really, we immediately put the pressure on our IT teams, which luckily here at ECRM, we've always been a kind of technology forward company, heavily relying on our systems and our processes to help, move the business forward, help our customers. And so we went to them immediately to develop this platform, saying, if we can't be face-to-face, we need how can we develop something online that's truly the next best thing? It's more than just seeing each other in a video conference, but it's being able to share your information that everyone's put onto RangeMe. It's being able to take meeting notes. It's being able to rotate through meetings in 10, 20-minute increments, and being able to, have 10, 15 meetings in a day very, very efficiently. Being able to support, have the hands-on technical support or customer support that we always have on the back end when we're face-to-face together. So once that was developed, the next thing was to take all the information that we've gathered from buyers that are participating and, what their objectives are and what they're kind of looking for today, and relaying that to suppliers so that you could take what you already have as a supplier and relate that to that buyer and take those precious 10 or 20 minutes that you get with the buyer to talk about the true business that can get done. And so I think that's like a big piece of, I'm learning a lot right now, just in all the customers that I'm talking to, because everybody's trying to pivot. Everybody's changing a bit. Suppliers are, might be changing the way some of their products and some of the things they featured about their products now have changed a bit. Or they have a different angle that they're talking about with the retailers that they can really take advantage of. And the retailers, a lot of them are trying to decide what are my customers' needs going to be as this all evolves. And, I talked to a buyer just this morning that said, sometimes I don't know what I'm looking for until I see it. And I have to go to your program because everyone's doing a lot right now. I need to get in front of these suppliers. So I'm ready when the opportunity exists. So it was very, very open. And then you talk to other buyers that are saying really specifically, Rob, I saw your question about food service. We've had a number of food service ESIs recently where the buyers are coming in saying, we're going to change our menus. We're going to try to focus more on products that can fulfill more of like delivery, carry out. Because even if our restaurant's open, we think that a lot of people have been trained that and like to do that more. We have to have items that are going to carry well in food service. We're going to have new supplies and equipment that can help us to transport the food, or we're going to have to, kind of reorganize our store or our restaurant in a different way. And since I'm talking about, the food service angle, that, a lot that we see there too is a pivot there as well. We have a food service program that's going to be in July. Traditionally, it's been very heavy on restaurant groups that have participated. Now we're getting a lot more interest, and we're focusing a lot more on engaging with, nursing homes, hospitals, health systems, colleges, universities, schools, places that, 100% are going to need food and are looking at things maybe a bit differently, but still have the need, just as they always have. And then the restaurants that are participating are ones that are pivoting, the ones that are, doing some things differently and are looking to change their menus. And we're kind of gathering all that up front and relaying that to the suppliers so that you get a group that is ready to do business and looking for something specific.
Thank you for answering this question. And on that note, this is about relationship building. That's the kind of the theme that's being woven through here. Brandon talked a lot about that in the beginning. So did Joe and Sarah. But the point is that relationship building, how many of us as brands have tried to get an appointment with a retailer? It's not always easy to do, especially with their packed schedules and everyone wanting to see them. This is an opportunity to get an introduction. Imagine that I would introduce you to a retailer, someone else would introduce you to a retailer. Well, what ECRM and RangeMe are doing is they're making that introduction. Here's a brand that we think you should look at. Here's a brand that has a product that aligns with the category, the mission, whatever you're trying to sell. So thank you for sharing that. And again, thank you for sharing the question that Rob had about food service. Something I was going to ask later, because that's such an important part of the changing environment that we're in. Brandon, do you have any comments or any thoughts you wanted to share?
Yeah, I think, part of this is from, one of the things that we get to see on RangeMe is a lot of, because there's so much scale and because things are moving so fast, we actually get an opportunity to see kind of what trends are happening during this time and what trends have been emerging. I think, going off of what Joe and Sarah said, 100%, buyers are still sourcing. As suppliers, you still got to, be discovered. You still have to get your products out there. But what we're seeing, other than the macro trends of like now buyers are doing more virtual things. That's a big piece of it. But let's put that on the table for a second, because what I've noticed is buyers have been more agile in terms of the ability for them to start, to embrace virtual, because it's a lot easier for them to, transition into that. They can say, hey, you know what, I won't be able to travel, so I'm going to be able to do this. Suppliers obviously are trying to adapt to how buyers want to continue to discover products. So hold that thought for a second. So on the platform right now, RangeMe seeing, as Sarah said, I can substantiate the fact that yes, medical procurement and like, hospitals and whatnot sourcing different types of products, and then now using platforms like RangeMe to do that, so they can do it at scale. Drop ship capable brands are extremely hot right now. So as retailers continue to want to increase their assortment, but they don't have time, right? They don't have a lot of time to work with a brand, onboard them, and do all the things that they would normally do to bring them into a store. But they do know that their online channels are slammed, right? They're getting a ton of traffic and they have a lot of out of stocks. So part of that is getting brands quickly onboarded that are dropship capable, that have the opportunity that can ship direct. That's a big one. But really the funny thing about it is, other than like obviously the spike in essentials, there hasn't been much change in the trends, and there hasn't been a lot of like downturn either. Like in other words, the search terms that were being searched, stuff like CBD, stuff like keto, they're all still being searched, and they're still being searched at the same level. So we know that buyers are still doing business. So let's go back to that. Just like how you have to adapt your company, right? So in other words, if buyers now are looking for dropship capable brands, what are you going to do? You're going to go back after today if you're a brand, and you're going to be like, okay, now I'm not dropship capable today. What is it? What is it at least going to take? What type of investment? What type of time? Will my packaging hold up? Is this something that I can do? Right? You're going to go back and research that because you want to take advantage of that trend. Well, this is the same thing with virtual, right? So if buyers are going virtual, like you heard it, 1,200 buyers took place in ESIs in less than a month, right? So that means they're embracing it, which means that, even though you might think that as a brand, you're like, once this thing is all over, I'm going to go back to doing my trade shows. I'm going to go back to doing, just using RangeMe. Look, this new thing that's happening, buyers are using it. This is a trend, right? And this is going to last for a long time. And this is going to be part of the staple of how buyers are going to want to discover products moving forward, right? They're still going to have a mix of discovery opportunities, but at the end of the day, they are going to have, this is going to be part of it. Like I said, everyone's getting a rapid education on Zoom, getting more comfortable with it, getting a rapid education with virtual, they're getting comfortable with it. So this is going to be part of the fabric of the industry moving forward. It's best now to stay ahead of that trend, right? Stay ahead of the fact that, okay, look, what you're going to have to do is, if brands right now are hesitant to jump virtually, this is your time to take advantage of that, right? This is your time to get as much screen time as possible before everyone else starts jumping on the bandwagon, right? So, I think this is something that we've seen. There's a lot of trends that like we know are very, very obvious, but this one, like I said, this is an opportunity for brands. Brands can now start early. Buyers are already doing this. And as we know, as the industry moves forward, as the buyers learn different ways to discover, as the buyers go to these trade shows, this is the reason why brands attend them, right? So if buyers are going to be attending these virtual opportunities, you as a brand should jump on that now.
I think to add to that, I think, now what we have together, once the virtual sessions launch, basically buyers and suppliers are going to be able to connect when, where, and however they want to, or what that makes sense to them. That's what we want to provide, is that capability. And someone just posted a question there. Brandon and Swizz, do you want to take a crack at that?
Yeah, no, thanks for the question. And, that's what so the question is about, how to leverage the programs and RangeMe together. And we'll help you. That's what we help do. I mean, they really do work together as a way all year round. You can market your brand. So in registering for a program, our client success managers will work with you to help optimize your RangeMe profile. When buyers register for a program, we're, educating them on how to utilize RangeMe already. If they're not, in many cases, they're already using RangeMe. When the buyers see their schedule, it links directly to the RangeMe page that they can then view all the products that they're going to hear about in your meeting before, during, and after. And so they do work in many ways hand in hand. We also find that a lot of suppliers that participate will use their RangeMe catalog, send out their RangeMe page as the way to get out their product information and get a whole catalog of the products into the buyer's hands. So we'll, hold your hand through that process and really coach you through how to do that once you're registered for a program.
It's all about being found. And I
Yeah.
wanted to throw out a couple of thoughts. And remember what I shared with you just a minute ago about all the travel that I did. Most brands, actually very few brands, can afford that. Well, when you're working for Unilever, one of the biggest brands on the planet, I mean, that's the way things were done. But if you're a small brand, being able to spend that much on jet fuel and hotel and travel and everything else, beyond the burnout factor, et cetera, think about what you can accomplish in a short amount of time. So a lot of people think about, well, they go to a trade show, what does that cost? And then they look at the ECRM RangeMe platform and they try to compare the two. They're not the same. Think about, you bring your people, you bring your samples, you bring everything else. What do you get? What is your ROI at the end of the day? And think about that. So I want to throw out a couple other thoughts. And Brandon, you were starting to say something, so I'll let you jump in. But right now, a lot of retailers are suffering a lot of out of stocks. There are a lot of out of stocks across a lot of shelves. There is a real opportunity for creative brands to jump in and solve those problems, help those retailers solve those out of stock issues. In addition to that, one of the things I've been hearing a lot about is how big brands are not going to innovate because they don't see not going to spend the money on it. But yet, you hear me talk about all the time, true innovation is what we find in the natural channel. That's you guys. So here you have an opportunity to create an innovative product that your customers are going to want, and then partner with the retailer to solve that out of stock problem and solve that customer's problem that's looking for something that's no longer available on the shelf. Leverage these platforms and take advantage of this unique opportunity that you have. And the best part about it is, when things get back to whatever the new normal looks like, you may already have space on a retailer shelf, and then it's just a matter of keeping it. So it gives you a competitive advantage. So Brandon, I'm sorry, you were going to say something?
Yeah. I was just gonna piggyback and kind of continue on what Sarah was saying, and I think from a RangeMe perspective, this is, and like when you go to an industry event that's like, let's say not a trade show, just say you go to a shop talk, let's say you go to a NatchCom, and you meet an industry professionals like Dan, right? First thing you do is you go to your LinkedIn and you connect with them, right? I've already had 5-6 LinkedIn requests just from in the last 45 minutes, right? From some of the panelists here, and that's what you're doing. You're using LinkedIn as a tool to stay connected, and I think that brands have the opportunity to do that as well with RangeMe, right? So what RangeMe does is it kind of binds all your activities together. So as you're talking about how do we weave things together, essentially imagine this RangeMe thing is just always on. This is your kind of LinkedIn for the industry. This is your opportunity to have, your sell sheet in a digital way, real time, dynamic, and for you to be able to share it, both post a show during the year. Anytime you would use your sell sheet and have to create a new PDF or send out a new email, you can use RangeMe, and it's that much easier. And I think that right now, a lot of brands are starting to say, okay, you know what? I should have put more time in this up front, because really what it does is it enhances everything that you're already doing. So whether you're going to an ECRM session, whether you're going to sell at a farmer's market, whether you're going to a top-to-top meeting at a retailer, what you're trying to do is you're really trying to have this kind of all year round visibility that exists for yourself. that doesn't make the pressure of that moment as reliant on that, right? It kind of softens everything because it gives you visibility, it gives you awareness, and it gives you a tool to be able to have throughout the year to scale your brand. So that's all. Like, I think, we're talking about weaving ECRM and RangeMe together. You should be thinking about all of these opportunities as part of your arsenal, right? And how to best leverage them as part of your arsenal. And a lot of us are sitting at home right now because we have to. And so we're forced to start looking at opportunities like RangeMe to be able to do that. But this is, like I said, this has been a rapid education and all this stuff. So moving forward and coming out of this, make sure you're weaving it in so you can scale, not just the online, not just the in-person, but also this new virtual thing that exists.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry, Joe,
Dan,
go ahead. Could you guys put your contact information in the chat? Sorry, Joe, go ahead.
Sure. To write on what you were saying before about the opportunity for a lot of these emerging natural brands, we're in a point right now because of the whole supply chain situation and out of stocks, where this whole pandemic is kind of forcing the trial of new brands, right? If let's say there's some food staples at a grocery chain that are out of stock, they're going to look for alternatives. And a lot of times the opportunity is by finding an emerging brand that actually has product in stock that they may not have put on the shelf before, but now they need something there. So they put those brands on the shelf, and then the consumers start getting it because there's nothing else. So initially they're getting this brand because there's no other options, but now they like it and they're going to start, they start requesting it. So it's an opportunity for a lot of these emerging brands to get that space on the shelf in a time where, people just need it and there's no other alternatives, but then it can end up becoming a normal part of that assortment, depending on the success of that brand. But so that's right now, that's a lot of buyers are looking for these emerging brands just because their supply chain or their manufacturers are out, or maybe they just don't have the logistics capability to get enough of these products to the shelf on time because of the surge of people buying. So it's a great opportunity for emerging brands.
Thank you for sharing that. And on that note, I know we're coming to the top of the hour. I'm going to put this on the Brand Secrets and Strategies podcast. It's going to be one of the, put it up as a podcast. So you can always get the replay there. Share it, please. Again, help us raise the bar in the industry. I'm also going to put this on my YouTube channel. I'm available to stay here and continue answering questions for as long as we need. Up to you guys, in terms of what your schedules are. But, please send us more questions. If you can't get your question answered here, please reach out to us. I put my contact information in there. Don't forget, if you want to learn about future events, the speaking page on my website. And next week, we're going to be talking about how to calculate the ROI from a trade promotion. And so let me say one more thing. One of the things that I really wanted to share, thank you guys for coming out on here, is when you have this unique opportunity to get in front of a retailer, let's all be prepared. That's what all my content is focused on. How do you prepare for these opportunities? I always say you never get a second chance to disappoint a customer. Well, that's a retailer too. So how do you leverage how do you put your best foot forward when you have an opportunity to meet with a brand, meet with a retailer, either virtually or through the RangeMe platform or whatever? How do you get found? And Brandon and I had a great conversation about leveraging, like Brandon was talking about, LinkedIn and other social profiles to get on the radar of the retailer. So with that said, any other thoughts, any other questions, anything anyone else wants to talk about, we're here for you. This is about you.
Daniel, I see two questions in here that we can still address. The first one I see here is about, someone that has attended in the past and, buyers seemed excited on site, and then how do you, get sales afterwards? And so I want to talk a little bit about that, because I think the buyers that we're getting to our programs, to these sessions, they're very large buyers. Our sweet spot on the buy side is very, large national chains, larger regional players. So they have significant, we're kind of validating their buying power and making sure they can have significant buying power going in, so the suppliers can see their return on their investment. And I would say with that, we find it does take, this is, I think, in my opinion, the most efficient and best way to get in front of buyers, to get you that return on investment. But it does take sometimes 2-3 times. You'll see multiple testimonials and case studies that we have from companies that have attended over the years that, it can be that you attend and you have a great appointment with somebody and you make a sale right away, but I wouldn't say that is the norm. So I just want to get that out there to set the right expectation that, this is like anything else. You get in front of a retailer, you can start the process, and depending on where you are with the relationship with that account, it's going to determine a little bit more about how fast that sale potentially will come. Sometimes it's your first time. It's really, you're introducing yourself to the retailer. And so it might take 2 or 3 more times to get in front of them. I think the other thing that is really nice is that, in this environment, you have noticed that these buyers don't have any distractions going on. They're not, in their office getting phone calls and having meetings coming in and out. We really have them focused on, even in the virtual setting, meetings back to back to back, and have prepped them and coached them on what they're looking for. And so it's a great opportunity to get the feedback from them that you need to take another step forward in that relationship. As far as supplier success rates and things like that, I always talk to people a little bit about, how far our programs have come from having one program in 1994 to 100 programs today, and having renewal rates on each one of those programs between 80 and 90% on the supplier side. People are coming back year after year because they are getting that return on investment. Just sometimes it takes a number of times to get in front of those retailers, and we're committed to help doing that at a future program and multiple programs, or just helping in the follow-up process. So I want to address that. And then there was another question about costs. So, how are the virtual programs fees versus the programs that are in person? And so we do have all of our programs fees posted on our website, along with what it would cost if they're featuring virtual meetings. Those fees are incorporating all of the kind of processes that we've talked about. So our team to curate the schedule for you. We have an outreach team that's getting these buyers engaged, then prepped and ready to get into the meetings, the platform that we've built to host all of the meetings to take place, the tools that we have to help do the connections before, during, and after through RangeMe, through our follow-up website. So happy to get in more details about that, but I saw the question there. And most of these fees, just as an example, my specialty diets program, very relevant for a lot of the suppliers that I see are on the call here, being in the healthy food specialty diets area. Typically our 20-minute session to have meetings for that was about $16,000. Now that's $8,000. So we do, when we converted to our virtual sessions, did reduce our rates pretty significantly to accommodate, some of the changes that we have in way of costs that we were having take place with the programs in person.
And there's a value. I want to emphasize this. There's a real value in learning from the experts about how to do this, about how to take advantage. What are the best practices? Let me give you an example why this matters. I launched my business about 10 years ago. I have gone through a couple different email service providers. I've had a couple different websites. I've used a lot of different things that didn't work. Think about all the lost business, all the money I've wasted, all the time I've wasted. If I had had an expert guide me through this and help me understand what is the best strategies that, I've got the infrastructure now, but wow, was that a pain to get that in place. My point is this: if you're a brand and you're trying to learn how to get on Amazon or any other platform, it doesn't matter, whatever platform, in front of whatever retailer, work with whatever broker, you need to have an expert guide. And what Sarah's talking about is they're willing to sit down. They're wanting to sit down with you to make this experience work for you. They're here to help you. They know what works and what doesn't work, so that you don't waste that opportunity, so that you don't disappoint that retailer because you weren't prepared, or because you didn't have the right mix, or your sell sheet wasn't right. Or as Brandon was talking about, How do you make sure you've got the right content in there that's going to help you get discovered? Anyone else?
Yeah, so I see, this is Brendan. I see a question from Daniel. I just poked you on LinkedIn, so I'll follow up with you after this. But, one of the questions is, essentially around kind of more early stage brands and things like that who are still building up capital and whatnot. One of the things that I mentioned earlier was about, leveraging all the channels that exist for you and using them in a way that can accelerate and scale what you're doing already, right? And I think part of that right now is you're going to, the common misconception about a lot of these things is, Sarah alluded to it too when it's talking about like follow-ups and things like that. Common misconception is that like everything is going to be turnkey. And, from an experience standpoint, yes, obviously, ECRM, what ECRM does is very, very, very turnkey in terms of the experience, the program, and kind of the hand-holding throughout. But there's still an aspect of what you have to do as a brand for best practices. RangeMe is the opposite, right? RangeMe is like, this is your tool. It's there. It's a channel. But it's mainly a tool for you, right? So you're going to enhance your current sales and marketing with whatever you're going to do. So that means that for all of these things, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. So the better your profile looks, the better the more USPs you add, the more certifications you get, all of the things that you do to market and sell your brand, you need to make sure that you're doing it in the best way possible and that you're leveraging all the channels to get the word out, right? So in other words, I see a lot of people, one of the biggest questions I always get is like, hey, how do I get more out of RangeMe? How do I get more out of RangeMe? And 99 times out of 100, it's like, well, are you using it for this? Are you, when you're going out and you meet someone, do you send them your digital sales sheet? So because what ends up happening there is when you have new item launches, as you're an early stage brand, if you have new ideas, new flavors and things like that, guess what? You're not going to have to resend a PDF to someone again that you've met, right? You're going to have that in real time. That link's going to stay the same and all your entire product line is going to be there. But if you think about like just application wise, all the sales and marketing things you're doing shouldn't be done in silos, right? You shouldn't be doing them independently from each other. Like, these are all just different things, all these different channels. No, it's all part of your marketing mix, right? I'm a marketer at heart, so, I geek out on this kind of stuff. And when we created RangeMe, it was part of like, how do we supplement all the things that are already happening in the industry? Yeah, trade shows and events are still happening. Yes, high touch opportunities like ECRM is still going to happen. Yes, you're still going to have top-to-top meetings. They're going to be open calls. They're going to be sourcing initiatives that these retailers run. There's going to be distributors out there that are going to help you as well. But how do you bind all of this together, right? And that's really what it's about. You ask about other ways other than like upgrading to premium for RangeMe that you can get more out of it. It's going to be what you put into it and adding it to your marketing mix, right? I think. The common misconception is that when you start paying for something like premium, it's just like LinkedIn Premium too. Like with LinkedIn Premium, you get to see who's viewing your profile and you get to like send in-mails. But if you don't use in-mails and you don't look at and you don't leverage or action upon who's looking at your profile, it doesn't mean anything, right? You're just paying for this capability. It's the same thing with RangeMe. Is like, yeah, you can pay and you can be premium, but if you're not ready for it, and you're too early stage, and you're not even using RangeMe for the nuts and bolts of what it is. And the tool to supplement your sales and marketing, you're not going to get anything out of that as well. So like I said, all of this stuff is going to have the opportunity for you to grow. The more, and the question is about money, right? The more you pay, the more you're going to, the more towards turnkey it's going to be, obviously, right? So, it's that triangle I always like to share people that when we start talking about, new features and things like that, is that triangle of the good, fast, cheap. Right? If it's fast and cheap, it's not going to be good. If it's good and fast, it's not going to be cheap, right? And if it's if it's fast and cheap, if it's fast and well, you guys know what I'm saying. If it's cheap and good, it's not going to be fast. So for you guys, I'm a resource for you. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Like I said, I've been in marketing for a very, very long time, and I've worked in CPG for a very long time. This is my second CPG company that I've been with from a technology standpoint. if you have questions about how you can scale and how you can continue kind of like doing this stuff, I'm happy to help. And Dan is a tremendous resource here as well. So as we continue going and your education continues growing, you're going to see a lot of these opportunities kind of sprinkle their way through. So I would stick with it.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you for saying that. One of the things I don't think Brandon has really hit on as much as let me put it this way. You guys have an amazing platform. When he's talking about the LinkedIn profile, he's talking about version control. Why does this matter? I'm going to date myself. I started in this industry back when dirt was invented. Just kidding. Every time I went out to a new retailer, there was a new deck being sent down by corporate. I had to print that thing out. I had to put it in a binder. I had to take it to the retailer. And then as I'm leaving the retailer's office, I get an email. Of course, we didn't have smartphones back then, so I had to wait till I logged in. And there was a new update that I didn't share with the retailer. Imagine having a sales sheet that is consistent, that is correct, accurate, has the most current information in it every minute of every day. Every time you make a change, it's there, just like your LinkedIn profile. So one of the things that I think, one of the reasons I love RangeMe so much is because now you've got that ability to have a consistent voice with the retailer. You've heard me talk a lot about the Turnkey Sales Story Strategies course and how the impetus behind that is that if I tell you a story and someone else tells, and you tell someone else and so on, by the time that story comes back around to me, your story is unrecognizable. The Achilles heel of almost every brand, especially big brands, is that their story is not told with the same passion and enthusiasm as originally told by the founder. Imagine being able to do that. And to my mind, that's RangeMe. Now leverage that with the ECRM platform. And now you're kind of putting that on steroids, forget the pun because we're talking about natural channel, but now you're being able to add rocket fuel to your ability to make those connections and drive those relationships and build those sales. Anyone else?
Well, and the other thing is, at every one of our sessions, right, I always tell this to brands that from every meeting they have, be it virtual now or, in person, they should get at least one of two things from it. One is obviously a follow-up that could potentially lead to business. The other is insights that will help them make their business better. Yes. So it's a back and forth. And, the more work you put into it on the front end in terms of your research, your prep, and then listening in that conversation. These are two-way conversations that we're doing at the virtual sessions. So it's an opportunity to really get feedback on what you have. One example is we had a pet product supplier from Brazil at one of our sessions, and he came with the sole purpose for this one year of learning as much as he could from every buyer he met with on what he should put into the rebranding of his products for the US market. And then based on his feedback, he came back 2 years later with the rebrand and knocked it out of the park. Because the one thing, buyers love, if they give you input on your packaging or sizing or whatever, ingredients, and then you meet with them this following year, like Swizz said before, it's important, that you come back and meet. Come back the next year and you meet with that buyer and you say, hey, I took your input. Here's what resulted from it based on it. They love that. And you're making it relevant. It's all about relevance. And that's what's really going to drive that business, that engagement, those relationships.
Great story. And imagine if you're a brand, how much it would cost you to do all that research on your own. Now you're getting advice from retailers that want to see you succeed. Thank you for sharing that, Joe. Anyone else? If you've got any other questions, please reach out to us. Our contact information is in the chat. Don't forget to check out future webinars. And thank you everyone for being here. And with that, unless anyone's got another question, we'll go ahead and end this.
Thank you so much for having us on, Daniel. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, dude.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah,
And
thank you
thank you,
guys.
everybody, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks. And look for this on the podcast. So I'll publish it next week. I'm going to put it on the YouTube channel, even though you don't get to see everyone's smiling faces. Like Brandon said, it's a learning curve. I've never set up a meeting with so many people, and I had it set up so that people be able to share. So anyhow, I don't know what I did. Consider it a blonde thing. But thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. And like I said, we're here to help you. We're here to help you grow and thrive in this new normal and whatever this amounts to. And again, like we said, if you could get a jump start on your competition by leveraging the platforms of RangeMe and ECRM, that's a win. Oh, one other thing I wanted to say real quick. Sarah made the comment that they have mostly larger retailers on their platform. If you listen to the podcast episode that I did with Brandon, one of those larger retailers is a little retailer called Whole Foods Market. So they are dealing with or working with a lot of natural retailers. Now, with the relationship with Whole Foods Magazine, et cetera, we're trying to bring some of those other retailers into this ecosystem. And so keep reaching back out. Keep letting us know what you guys need. And we're here to help you. So anyhow, with that, thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing you guys next Friday, same time. We're going to be talking about trade marketing ROI. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank Sarah, Joe, and Brandon for being available today and for coming on the podcast and sharing their insights. I want to thank them for helping you understand and how to get the most out of their new platform and how to leverage it to gain a competitive advantage. I'll be certain to put a link to ECRM and RangeMe in the show notes and on the podcast page. Today's free downloadable guide is my trade marketing essentials to grow and scale your brand. This is my single most popular download, and the great part about it is that it leads up nicely to next week's free webinar, how to calculate the true ROI from a promotion. You can listen to today's podcast as well as download today's show notes and get the free download on today's podcast webpage. And you can get there by going to brandsecretsandstrategies.com/session 189. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.